Transformers 1 is a movie of two halves. The first half of the film, I was scared as hell in the theater because I thought it was going to be as bad as the trailer suggested. But then the second half of the film came in, and it might be the best Transformers movie yet. Let's talk about it. The film depicts Optimus Prime and Megatron's origins, an early relationship as two Cybertronian workers, Orion Pax and D-16. Alongside other familiar faces, gain the ability to transform at will. However, in the process, a mysterious threat arises and they forever change the fate of Cybertron, the home planet of the Transformers. So the scary first half that I was talking about in this film was when they were doing the world building, introducing the fun relationship between Orion Pax and Megatron, and introducing sprinkles of the central conflict. And I gotta say, all this was interesting. The problem was the presentation and execution in that first half. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon more than a cinematic experience. Repetitive dialogue about the meaning of friendship and having your back, wanting more out of your life. And all these themes are obviously important, but it's done in a way where it felt like it was supposed to be jamming these themes inside of a kid's head and not an adult head. So for me, who is a grown adult and haven't been a kid in a long time, this was just really torturous. Alongside having a familiar story structure, the movie, through that first half had me rolling my eyes or completely stone-faced because I wasn't emotionally invested on anything that was going on the screen. I gotta say, the animation is absolutely gorgeous, very unique. It's not like Spider-Verse, like a lot of animated movies trying to be like that, but it's not Pixar either. It has its own unique look, and the voice acting is stellar. Everybody that came to do the voices in these characters did a great job. It's just the problem, it was presented like it was supposed to be a kid's show on Paramount Plus, not something that you watch in theater. It wasn't until the characters hit the surface world of Cybertron and the main crux of the story and their journey begins, where the cinematic quality and feel of the film began. There were exciting landscapes, a very terrifying and unique villain that I was interested in seeing more of. Twists and turns that a little predictable because of some foreshadowing in the beginning of the film, but the execution felt a little bit more impactful and exciting, and action took it up a notch. And this led them to meeting Alpha Trine, and obviously that characters in the trailers, and it shows when they get their cogs, and all that was great. But there's some twists and turns within the story in that specific part that makes the movie move up a couple notches in intensity, stakes, character-wise. Everything was just a complete 180 in terms of how kiddie it was in the first half and how it doesn't become adult, but it just becomes better written in the second half. I caught myself ooh and ah and laughing a lot more when the second half started because everything started clicking in. All the cutesy moments from the beginning of the movie started making sense and making it worth it. And I gotta give a big shout out to Brian Tyree Henry, who voices D-16, aka Megatron. He does a fantastic job voicing his character. The character goes from this kind of naive, following the rules kind of character who's best friends with Optimus Prime, or who's supposed to become Optimus Prime and Orion Pax. And then you see the sprinkles of what could become the Megatron we all know and love. And that transition and everything is really well earned, and a lot of it is on his back in terms of his voice acting. The animation does a great job of depicting the character's face and everything and making it very lively and human-like, but his voice acting really drove it home. Chris Hemsworth does a great job as Orion Pax, just like with Chris Pratt and when he did like Mario, and we were worried about that because you think you might hear too much Chris Pratt, but he did a good job of mixing his voice with Marioisms. I think that Chris Hemsworth did the same thing where you kind of hear his voice, but it also sounds different enough that it sounds like a different character, so you're not thinking about Chris Hemsworth all the time. And it was really refreshing seeing a young, hopeful, optimistic, rule-breaking Optimus when he's super young and not doing everything by the book and giving grand speeches. He's just trying to have fun, live his life, and have some freedom. His character arc from the beginning of the movie shows clearly which way he was going and how he could become Optimus Prime, and the fact that D-16's character arc wasn't as clear, when they come into conflict, it really hits home more, because when we watch Transformers movies, we just know that these two don't like each other, right? We know this the Autobots versus the Decepticons, but the way the movie presents the conflict between these two, it's not as cookie cutter or black and white and clear as the live action movies make it. Plus, when you add an element of other antagonists that are the main villains and problems in the film, it elevates everything to another level. And they're not the only standouts. This cast of characters are voiced by an all-star cast cast with Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, John Hamm. The list goes on and on and on, and they did a great job. It had the space to really bring life to these characters because there's no humans in this movie. This is set 3,000 years before they come to Earth, and they do a really good job of making us invested in just the characters on the screen, the Autobots, the Decepticons, and everybody in between that wasn't a part of those factions. And because we have no humans to hold back the story, I think this is one of the best Transformers movies we've gotten in a long time because it focuses solely on the Transformers. And I don't want to act like the shift in the plot in the second and third act is revolutionary or anything. It's still kind of predictable in places, but the execution was done really, really well with the twists and turns that you might have saw coming, and the emotional investment was greater because of the work they did in building each character's arc and what's going on, and some of the central conflicts can get you frustrated and feel bad because of the things that you saw in that first act that I thought was kind of too cutesy. So I think overall as a package, I think that this movie becomes great, even though I thought that the first act was rough to get through. The second act and how it executes all the things that were coming from the first act elevates it above being a Saturday morning cartoon movie put on theater. It's worth seeing on the big screen, especially for the beautiful animation. For Transformers fans, I think this builds on the lore that we know and love. It makes the Autobots and Decepticon battle not as clear in black and white as it was before, and the ending to the film is great to the point where I want to see more of this. I want to see a second, third movie so we can really flesh this out and get to some of the cooler story parts of what happens when they don't meet the humans, when it's just the Autobots and Decepticons going back and forth with each other. With that said, I'm going to give Transformers 1 a C+. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Transformers 1? Is this one of the best Transformers movies that you've ever seen? Was it a little too kiddie in that first half and hurt your enjoyment? Or did you just like it overall? I thought it was meh. And if you haven't seen it yet, are you going to check it out based on my review? Drop all those comments down below and let me know. Like the video if you like my review. Attack that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you can notify reviews, reactions, live discussions, and much, much more. You can watch more content.